Hello everyone, welcome to Fableheim and the first dev diary for Age of Wonders 4, the Archon Prophecy. This is our first look at the new culture, the Architects. These dev diaries are going to be drip-feeding us information every Thursday until July 24th, when the first dev streams will begin, every Thursday until August 12th, the release date of the final expansion of Expansion Pass 2. So without further ado, let's take a look at the Architects, the newest culture who create monuments to affinities and grant their people powerful boons. Welcome, Gaudia, one and all. I am Thomas Schuiten, senior designer at Triumph. I've gotten older, congratulations. And on this day, as was foreseen by the Archons, we are going to be speaking of the newest culture emerging in the realms, the Architects. Prepared to shape the realm to their designs. I believe this is heavily influenced by the Highmen, or the Archons of yore, which was very heavily focused by like the Roman legionnaire sort of thing. So I expect good vibes. And conquest, of course. Architect who? The Archons are behind many of the great wonders you find around the realms. They did not build these alone. There were those who toiled in their name. And as the Archons moved on, they, the Architects, remained, building and forging in accordance to plans and designs passed down through the ages. These incredible creations are now a matter of tradition and discipline. Architects are a culture that create great monuments to the affinities, granting their people powerful boons and strengthening their ties to that affinity. The city of Akatamar is a proud marvel of architecture in its own right. So this must be a new SPI right here. Is this the monument, like, starting to be constructed? Or does it build in the city like the Wizard Towers? Okay, alright. What do they do? Great question. The architect culture is adaptable, requiring planning for the long-term construction of monuments, but granting a flexibility in their affinities and damage channels. Okay. It looks like this is the first culture that has no, like, set affinity over here, and it's entirely based on what you select. So at the moment, we're taking a look at the Architects of Order, who are 2-order culture, and doesn't have any other text about it. Okay. The Architect chooses their culture starting affinity. Got it. Notably, the Architect do not have an inherent affinity from their culture. Instead, when creating your Architect faction, you can choose their initial affinity points from among the 6 affinities. Hey Fabe, if you just stop tangenting and read the text, it'll tell you what you're thinking about. Their units are likewise adaptable, each having a partially hybridized unit role and matching their non-physical damage type to their dominant affinity, letting you lean into builds that make extended use of specific damage types, such as going full Astral Lightning and inflicting lots of lightning weakness. Clever. Most notably, the Architects build monuments. But before we can lay down the first bricks, we must acquire a powerful building material, the Wonderstone. Okay. The Surveyor is a useful scout, quick on their feet with a keen eye for extracting Wonderstone, a unique material created from the residue of magic materials via secretive methods. Wonderstone is used to lay the foundation of monuments and to build each tier upon them. Wonderstone can be obtained from magic materials in two ways. Okay. So we're really looking for magic materials. Got it. Is that a new banner? That kind of looks like it could be a new banner. Surveying provinces with magic materials is the quickest way to gain Wonderstone, but can only be done by your surveyors and only once per province. So while it is an excellent early source of the resource, it cannot support your projects indefinitely. Magic materials your empires own grant Wonderstone each turn, a slower source than surveying, but much more consistent. As this income is global, the source of the material is irrelevant, be they in annexed territory, provided through vassals, trade agreements, or even synthesized using transmutation. Each grants that much needed income of Wonderstone. While obtaining magical materials is vital to Architects' cultural monuments, how you get them is up to you. So how about those monuments then? Does this mean they're going to synergize very well with oh, what's it called? The Nature Society trait? The Gatherers, I think it's called. Magic Gatherers? Could be a fun little combo. Monuments. Each architect city may build a monument. This is done in a similar manner to other special province improvements. The first step is laying down the foundations. When laying down the foundation, you must choose which affinity this monument will be dedicated to. This dedication has a low minimum affinity requirement. Your people must at least understand what they are building towards after all. Oh, it's the return of the original magic victory condition. Kind of. Sort of. The foundation grants your units one stack of affinity incarnate. This type is dependent on the affinity the monument was dedicated to. Each stack gives +1 damage to the appropriate channel. So if we dedicated this monument to Chaos, we would gain a stack of Chaos incarnate, granting +1 fire damage to all attacks, +2 for single shot attacks. Yeah, this, what would you even call this? When they changed this to kind of like bring everything together mechanically, this was a great change. And I can see they're making good use of this new mechanic. It's not new, it was in the game before, but it was less, like, uniform. Also, I have just gotten a lot of ideas for some amusing dedications. More interestingly, perhaps, the Foundation grants +1 of the monument's affinity to the owner. Thus, if this is our aforementioned Chaos dedicated monument, our Empire now gains +1 Chaos affinity, accelerating our Empire development unlocks and potentially letting us access higher tier Chaos tomes without needing to invest in earlier tomes of that affinity. Okay. The monument also counts as a conduit for the purposes of adjacency bonuses and boosts. That makes sense. So, I've been using Tome Unbound quite a bit, where you can ignore the tome requirements and just pick up whatever you want. But if you were +2, let's use the Chaos example. +2 for being dedicated to Chaos. Then +4 from we'll go to Chaos Society traits, the raiding one, the double raid shenanigans. That's 4. And then if we start with, for example, Pyromancy, that's a good start. More damage, more good. That's +2. We're at 6. Assuming the monuments give +1 affinity for each tier, at level 2, that's 8 Chaos affinity, and you can go straight to Tome of the Chaos Lord. Alright, that's amusing. Tier 2, the Sanctum. We're building a little temple. The Sanctum grants an additional stack of affinity incarnate of the affinity that the monument was dedicated to. In addition, it grants +20 city stability, letting the city grow more rapidly. The affinity gained increases, further increasing your empire's developments. Okay, good. Tier 3, the Zenith. Nice. The Sanctum grants an additional stack of affinity incarnate of the affinity that the monument was dedicated to, bringing us up to +3. So if you can get 5 in your starting build, like as you enter the world, turn 1, you have 5 affinity, you can build the monument alone to get you to the final tier of Tome. That's amazing. In addition, at Tier 3, your units gain bonus resistance based on the monument's affinity. Thus, our Chaos monument would grant +2 fire resistance. The affinity gained increases again, further increasing your empire's development. The city that owns this monument now gains +10% more food, production, and draft, accelerating its growth and development. I'm scheming. Tier 4, the Apex. Oh, look. It kind of looks like it broke, but maybe it just couldn't contain its power anymore. The Apex represents the final step of the monument's construction. As with the previous tiers, it grants another affinity incarnate for a total of 4. The resistance bonus likewise increases at this tier, thus our Chaos monument would be providing a solid +4 fire resistance to our units. The affinity gained increases further still. That 10% bonus income that the previous tier gave now extends to all resources, turning the city that this monument belongs to into a true economic powerhouse. Additionally, at Tier 4, the monument counts as a golden wonder, letting you use these impressive structures as a way to attain magic victory by binding them as you would any other golden wonder. Does this count for the explorer ambition as well? Just curious. Where you need to explore Golden Wonder? I guess since you're not actively exploring it, maybe it doesn't count. Affinity effigies. So here's my first question. Do we only get one monument, or does each city get a monument? Because that is an insane amount of affinity just flying around. Affinity effigies. Becoming available to build in architect cities that possess a Tier 4 monument, this is a structure project that can be repeated, increasing in cost each time it is completed. Each completion, however, grants the city a hefty income bonus of plus 20 food, plus 10 gold, and plus 10 mana, enough to turn the heads of any magistrate, but even more impressive as it combines the multiplier given by the monument itself. Okay. The cost. Monuments, however, are only impressive if they outdo the last. Thus, each time a monument tier is built, the cost of constructing another of that same tier increases significantly, as they seek to outdo their competition with grander and grander projects. Roman indeed. This practically means that as an architect empire, you may choose between building multiple lower tier monuments to varied affinities, or dedicating to completing fewer monuments for the increased economic effects. Each monument requires a significant investment of structure production as well. Thus, prioritizing effective structure production is often a priority for architect cultures. Okay. What I'm hearing is don't pick perfectionist architects. Or production, whatever it's called. That sounds like you're not going to have a good time. That increases the production cost of everything by 100%. Alrighty. I guess a lot of this is going to come down to like how it's balanced between the cost of the Wonderstone and the production cost as well. The gears are turning. What am I looking at? A whiteboard full of chaos. Many more deleted takes and rewritten documents later. Yup. Chaos indeed. Did the music just stop? So this is still going. Getting this mechanic right has proven to be quite a challenge. No culture concept that I've worked on has gone through as many varied iterations as the Architect. We wanted to have a culture that could represent the Archon indirectly, and avoid adding another order-focused culture. Thus, we focused instead on what the Archons created, and made a culture themed around those creations. This is my biggest fear. That we were just going to have another order angelic sort of situation. So I'm glad they circumvented that. The Architect City. Can I open this in a new tab? There we go. I'll read first and then we'll take a look at it. The Architect City went through some iteration after its original concept turned out too floaty for a culture about construction and architecture. Then, in order to represent more than just that, we decided they should lean into the affinities, playing with them in interesting ways. There were many iterations, each more mind-boggling than the last. Well, maybe not each, I did scale down the mind-boggling sometimes, but eventually we settled on a relatively restrained take that keeps the overall balance intact, letting the player interact with affinities in new ways and gain power over time, eventually outscaling the opposition. New tab. Monuments came together decently quickly. We wanted to represent the affinity in each stage visually. I am particularly fond of the affinity icon being visible in the foundation. The units in particular have some fun twists on them that I am proud of, but those will be seen in the next Dev Diary. Conclusion. There is more to talk about still, but the powers that be decreed that it shall have to be spoken of in the next week. Sorry, my brain had to work those words together. We will go into detail on the units and spells available to the culture then. Thank you for reading, and hope this provides an interesting introduction into the newest culture of Age of Wonders 4. So we're pretty much just looking at the foundation of the unique economy of the architects. Let's take a look at these pictures, shall we? Pretty pictures. Yep. That looks Roman enough to me. So this is just the city as it's evolving. Reduce central terracing clutter. Tier 2, small objects being animated. Tier 3, everything animated, all buildings. Added Tier 4, finishing touches, tallest buildings. I'm assuming the monuments are also linked to the tier of the city. Like a Tier 2 city can't have a Tier 3 monument, I would assume. You know what they say about assumptions, though. We got some concept art of units here. Snuck that in, I see. And this, whoa, okay. Architect Monument SPI. It is an SPI, I was right. Look at that. Stone texture same as the city. Okay, we have an Incan temple, I think. Temple of the Sun. Oh yeah, look. The affinity symbol is in the foundation. That's pretty cool. I do like that. Long side X, short side. Yes. Affinity relevant spread, trees for nature, bones for chaos, etc. Wait, if bones are for chaos... Oh, right. Shadow would just be frost, probably. So how about top FX and FX color per affinity? They're borrowing inspiration from that Golden Wonder, which is fair. What is this? Isn't this a Mystic City? Huh. Okay. Sure. Mystic City it is. So that was the part 1 of the architect culture. I suspect an overwhelming amount of shenanigans with this culture. Like, the amount of affinities it can bring to bear is quite insane. One of the old strategies before the change to research, I suppose you could still do it if you wanted to, but it's called the rainbow build, which I kind of brought back for Glint. But the whole idea of the rainbow build was to essentially research low tier tomes to get all of the enchantments and have all of the affinities branching out in the Empire Improvement tree. Because, you know, the lower the tome back then, the less research it cost. So you could just blow through all tier 1, tier 2 tomes as someone got to tier 5. It was an amusing build. Was it good? Kind of? I wonder if we could bring it back with this. To its, be more for the Empire, right? Because we wouldn't get the tomes. But interesting things. Interesting potential, I see. So, feel free to know what you thought of this first look at the Architects. We'll be back next week to take a look at the units and the culture-specific spells. I have high expectations. We'll see if our friends can live up to it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you to the patrons and the channel members support channel. I greatly appreciate you. If you like to help my channel, feel free to join the Discord description down below, and I will see you next week.